Awesome. How are you, man? Good to see you.
I'm all right. Look at you, you handsome bugger. Whereabouts are you at the moment?
Whereabouts am I?
Yeah.
I'm at home in Adelaide, Australia. Lots of things
Uh,
going on in Adelaide.
yes, right?
Nah, not
Oh,
really.
basically, you guys have done pretty well. All I ever hear from you guys is, "Oh, what about Adelaide?" In the last year, you guys have had Pantera. You just had Corn. Oh, come on,
That's true,
things aren't
actually.
things aren't going too
Yeah,
hard.
no, that's true. That's true. I actually went to Corn the other night because I found out, I think it got announced the day before that Loathe were going to be the only support. And then when I saw that, I was like, oh, I have to go now. So I ended up making my way there. But I think I may have contracted something from that corn pit. So I'm feeling a little bit under the weather. But we'll get through it. It's so fine.
It was like that after Limp Bizkit's sideshow at Good Things.
Mm,
Fred Durst came out sick as a dog, but still put on an incredible show. He literally had lined up bottles of Gatorade on stage, and he was like,
yeah, true.
"Doctor said I have to drink, 3 pints of fluid," and he just knocked them out throughout the show, and is
Crazy.
still fine. But we were all sick as dogs after that. We called it Good
Yeah,
Things-itis.
right. Good things, itis. Yeah.
um, Mate, how was your experience with Monolith?
Yeah, it was surreal, to be honest. It was very, very cool. Um I look back on it and think like, did that actually happen? It kind of felt like a bit of a fever dream. But traveling around with the festival, hanging out with, guys who, not only I look up to as like big influential artists of mine, but also being able to call them now as like friends. Like it's a very surreal thing for me. And it was just yeah, it was just the best time. Everyone was on the same page. Everyone was lovely. The shows went really, really well in every single city. The workshops went really well. I figured since it's a prog fest and people just want to know what string gauges periphery are using and all that stuff. So I expected no less. But yeah, no, it was a fantastic time, man. Honestly, it was very, very, very cool.
Now, as someone who has spent as much time with Periphery as you have, can you comment on this? Is Djent a genre?
I think so. I think so. I think it's fair to say that it is now. Nah, all jokes aside, it's one of those questions where I don't think it has a right or a wrong answer. It's what you believe inside. If you believe that it's a genre, then it's a genre, you know?
I was part of the press conference for Immutable when it came out and got to throw a question at Thomas Hark. I literally had the last question. So if you've ever seen one of these, international press conferences on Zoom, they're a slog. Like a lot of he's fielding questions from a lot of people. English isn't their first language. He's just sitting there with a
Yeah.
red wine, and I was like, he looked bored to tears, and I was like, oh, I had the last question. It's like, fuck it, I'm going to make him laugh. I was like, so Thomas, yeah, you guys have got one of the most copied guitar tones on the planet. If you guys could have patented your guitar tone from 2002's Nothing, what would you have spent the money on? And he was like, I would throw crumpled up singles at Jeff Bezos.
He would have loved that question. That's so funny.
100%. And I showed him my Catch 33 back patch, and he was like, "Oh, there you go."
His English is very good, actually, isn't it, Thomas?
Martin
I
as
think he's
well. I
got
mean,
the best out of all of them. Yeah.
yeah. If you heard
Yeah.
him, you would just think he was an American guy with a slightly muted accent. But yeah, no.
Yeah. Killer.
Now I just watched the video for Arrest. Ooh, ooh, maybe make this face. Ooh. Um, Man. Okay, so first of all, like, what can you tell me about the creation of the track itself?
Yeah, so Arrest, I guess, is like the final part of this like cardiac theme that I've been going on for the past year or so, with, previous singles like Pulse and Arrhythmia, and Arrest is meant to be like the final chapter of the trilogy, I suppose, and symbolizing that with having vocals on the track and almost having like something die and be reborn kind of thing, and as the naming scheme suggests. So the creation of the track was very much like I had this really heavy track that was honestly a lot more instrumentally like dense And then when it came time to bring it to Marcus to put vocals on, we sat down together and changed quite a lot of the song so that he would feel good with it, I feel good with it. And because that's one of the things I haven't really done before, like writing a song that has to have rooms for vocals on it. And I thought I was doing an okay job, but apparently still, I think my threshold for just like doing wanky shit on guitar is a bit too much. So we definitely dialed some things back for sure. But I think the end result is something that resonates with more people because it's something that resonates with both me and Marcus even more so than when we first started doing it.
Now, you doing wanky stuff on a guitar, I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
Man, you'd be shocked.
You're the man who gentified Michael Jackson. No, I wouldn't be.
That's, that is true. That is true. Yeah, and it's been retired since, thankfully.
Yeah.
No, that was good fun. That was very
Oh,
good
you've
fun.
retired the track.
I think we retired after that tour, yeah, because I there was back there wasn't backlash, but like I heard stories of people either loving it or people just not vibing with it at all. And it almost seemed like a 50-50. And I was like, you know what, just to keep the peace, I'm just gonna take it out the set. But maybe one day it'll come back. Who knows?
It's tricky, isn't it? Because obviously the legacy of him and everything that happened aside. I remember I just recently, like yesterday, was listening to They Don't Really Care About Us. It
Yeah.
is. Have you listened to that track in the last couple of years? Like,
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
yeah,
I'm a big Michael Jackson fan, yeah.
it's bizarre how harshly it is produced. Like,
Oh,
there's shit in there, like little samples of guitars and stuff that are deafeningly loud. And I was like, this was a
yeah.
pop song in the 90s. Like, it's a
It's
harsh
insane.
mix. Yeah.
A lot of that stuff, like the technology that we have now in this digital age, like you can make something that sounds better, quote unquote, in a bedroom. You know what I mean? It's
Mm.
crazy, and it's just so much. I read a stat the other day that there was more. I think it was like literally some day last week there was more music released that day than the whole of 1989 or something like that.
Wow. It
So
would shock me. Yeah.
yeah. So when I read that, I was like, oh, okay, that's the level that we're at right now.
So,
Insane.
mate, what was you've been exploring the heart theme through these last three tracks. What inspired that?
Honestly, I'm not entirely sure. I just like because it's funny because like I feel like I'm as far as like I'm not really like a qualitative person in the sense that like as some musicians are, and I feel like this is kind of fading out in a way, at least in my circle. But maybe like 20, 30 years ago, there would be a lot more emphasis on like, oh, like the feeling of music, man. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I feel
Mm.
like that in some ways has taken a backseat in this digital age where it's become very not formulaic, I guess like algorithmic in a way, and there's always some end goal to be chasing, especially in the age of like social media. So I guess like in a weird backwards way, I kind of wanted to bring that feeling back, and I felt like what better way to do that than have a heart symbolize that something we all have, something that fuels all our emotions, all our happiest moments, all our saddest moments, all our angriest moments, and having those different emotions through those tracks like Pulse, Arrhythmia, and the rest is more of a concept rather than I guess like an intention.
Yeah. The what was the concept behind the music video for Arrest? It's kind of like this CGI anime nightmare situation.
Yeah, so Nevin Sarunic at Dead End Visuals, he also plays bass in a band called Heartline, if you ever heard of them.
Hmm.
So I went to him and I said, "Hey, I have this song. These are the lyrics. This is what it's about." And roughly, the song is about like someone battling with the worst part of themselves and trying to be reborn, just as the song name suggests. So having the film clip, I saw some of his previous work and I really liked the style of one particular video. And I said, can you make it look like this? And he's like, yep, I'm going to make it look like this. I'm going to have a storyboard for you. And we're going to do all this story together in the video. And as time went on, it just grew and grew and grew. And it ended up being a video representing that, where there is like a main protagonist who is stuck in the depths in that red kind of atmosphere. And then as the song goes on, they kind of see a better version of themselves in the reflection. And then it all kind of comes like colliding together in a way. Just to basically say that, there is always going to be that party. You're just going to need to learn how to live with it. So having that represented in that visual art style with all of that kind of like anime, or like it's all 3D rendered, which is insane to me. Like it's actually
Mm.
like every single movement that's happening has been like programmed to do that, and every frame is like very calculated. So Nevin's just a freak. I don't know how he does that stuff, but yeah, I'm very happy with the end result. I think it turned out really cool to look at, especially.
Can you imagine having the capability to do what he's done with this video back in the 80s and early 90s? Yeah, you would have
Insane.
blown people's minds.
Just having a MacBook studio or whatever, just like having it in your room and being able to do that in a couple short weeks, you know what I mean? It's insane. And I guess that's why there was more music released in one day than 1989.
Who do you, nice easy question for you that will in no way be controversial. Who do you think are the most influential guitarists in modern metal?
That's a great question. See, I feel like my answers are going to be a little bit biased because I obviously have my own preferences, but I think it's fair to say that as of right now, Tim Henson is definitely up there. Like I've noticed that because I do guitar lessons on the side. I've noticed that a lot of my students who are like below the age of 21, just they love that style of playing. They love Tim Henson, they love Polyphia, they love bands like Unprocessed with Manuel Gardner Fernandez and stuff like that.
Mhm.
They're very invested in that almost like chimey, split coily, math rocky, acrobatic way of playing. And then I guess like a couple years later, and then going into like, 25 to 30, the big influences are always guys like Tosin Abasi from Animals as Leaders and Misha Mansour from just all the Periphery guys in general, to be honest, and PLINI and Interval, like Aaron Marshall and Intervals, like all those guys. So there's definitely like a generational gap, but I think it's fair to say that amongst all those guys in the modern age of like, digital recording and eight-string guitars and all that stuff, those names that keep popping up are still very relevant and still, even to this day, some would argue that they are past their prime. They still influence generations even after me, which is insane to see in real time.
It's really weird as you get older. I've just turned 39 and I'll be talking to someone in their early 20s, and they will be, I'll hear a guitar tone that they're using and be like, oh, that's Meshuggah. And they'll be like, who's Meshuggah? Because they're not influenced
Really?
by the band that created it. They're influenced by the band who was influenced by the
Yeah.
band. So there's a
Yeah.
set,
Yeah.
and it's so weird to me. Like, someone will
Yeah. 100%.
guitars from a band like Thornhill and be like, "Oh, that's such and such." I'm like, "No, it's Deftones." It's going back it's
Yeah, exactly right. To be fair, if you don't know Meshuggah or Deftones, I feel like you should just go listen to them right now.
yes. What do you think the
Yeah.
chances are that we'll get Meshuggah back in Australia? Because they're fucking
Dude,
dragging
you
their
tell
feet.
me. You probably got a better clue of
Yeah,
it than me.
I'm just
I don't
looking at my
know.
watch going, "What's going on?" Like,
I I wish they would come, man. I've never seen them. I think the last time they came, I wasn't even legal. So I really want to see them really, really, really badly. Because again, like you said, like I do love Meshuggah. I listen to Meshuggah quite regularly, but they definitely were like the catalyst for this type of sound that we've been talking about. Bands like Animals, bands like Periphery. So, and those bands influenced me so heavily. So I want to see like the forefathers live. You know what I mean? And I've heard
mm,
so many good things about their live show and their light show and how it all works and how it sounds. And yeah, I hope it's sooner rather than later. I was honestly thinking it was going to be for Knotfest or Good
mm,
Things or even like even Monolith. I thought they like that would have been cool if they headlined
mm.
Monolith, or even like Froth and Fury in Adelaide. I thought they could have done that too because they Froth and Fury did get some pretty big bands like Fear
No,
Factory
bugger
and
off.
stuff. Like
Froth and Fury got enough. They're not allowed to have any more. I'm pissed off. They got this insane lineup. And
they
poor
did get an
Brisbane,
insane
we
lineup.
missed out.
It's
Won't
you have to come
somebody?
to SA, man. That's the whole shit. You have to come to SA to see Froth.
Oh, we're always missing out. Won't someone think of the poor capital cities? Awful. We're hard done by.
Insane.
how how would you describe the music scene in Adelaide right now?
Honestly, if I'm being completely transparent, it would not align with the music that I'm playing or the music that I'm influenced by. I think the Adelaide music scene is very heavily focused on indie music, especially like that kind of Triple J-esque sound, but especially in recent times, like hardcore with bands like
Mhm.
Speed and stuff getting
Mhm.
really like really big. There is just it's kind of like you've probably heard the term like oh like Melbourne metalcore band. It's kind of
Mhm.
like Adelaide hardcore band. Like there's so many hardcore bands in Adelaide, and they're just emerging out of the woodwork, and it's very cool to see because a lot of the bands are very young, and some of them, like most of them, are still in school. So getting into the scene this early and almost like revitalizing the heavy scene in Adelaide a little bit because I've been told that there was a time where I Killed the Prom Queen and all these bands were like putting SA on the map, and then it kind of just went away a little bit. And now I feel like with the resurgence of hardcore and just heavier styles of music in general that are a little bit more like unga bunga and ignorant, I think it will be not that long before we start seeing some really cool bands coming out of Adelaide, especially in that scene.
Nice. Mate, for a bloke who's sick, you're doing very well with this interview. I interviewed Max
Thank you.
Cavalera when I had COVID, and I could barely get a sentence out. Like,
Yeah, right. True. I mean, I've had a tea. I've had a 1,000 milligram vitamin C supplement, so I'm pushing through, but it should be good. I felt a lot worse yesterday. That's for sure.
yeah, well, you're doing well. So, look,
Thank you.
lastly, I now I'm going to hit you with a serious question. Now, this was all foreplay. Now, this is the question that the people want to know.
Yeah.
Who would win in an arm wrestle between you and PLINI?
Honestly, have you ever met Plenty?
I haven't met him. I got to watch him at the last monolith. So not this monolith, the last one. And I remember remarking he was the most serene looking dude. Like, I hope to have half the level of serenity that he looked like he had on stage.
See that's the thing. He has a lot of serenity on stage, but there's videos of him just like and his band just screaming before the set starts, like just to get it all out. And
Yeah.
he's very tall as well. He's like 6'2". He doesn't look it on socials, but when you meet him in person, you kind of just looking up at him a bit. So I think for that reason, he might just get the edge on me a little bit. Although I do riff, I think a bit more than he does, and he's more of like the lead stuff. So maybe the right arm would come in handy for that, but. I think we'd be pretty even, but I think he'd just take the edge. Yeah.
I like it. Mate, thank you very much for your time. It was lovely to meet you. You probably won't remember this, but I got to, so you and I first interviewed in 2022.
No, I
Uh,
remember. I remember.
yeah. And then I got to meet you by the merch desk at Animals as Leaders.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was awesome to meet you. I hope I get to see you in Brisbane again soon. I was at Monolith, but had to come home early because I hurt my back. Um, yeah, man. Hopefully next time you're up here, we'll hang.
Dude, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This was a really fun interview. And yeah, hopefully I'm in Brizzy sooner rather than later and we can catch up.
Easy, mate. All right. Have a great day,
Awesome.
mate. Feel better soon.
Cheers. Thank
All
you.
right.
Bye.
Bye.